Oh, we're going. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mastering the Art of Discipline. Whether you're watching this over on YouTube, on PR Bootcamp, or inside of PR Accelerator, this is going to be one of the most important videos you can ever watch. Because discipline in today's age is really the one thing you need to become successful. More than 50, 100 years ago, not everybody could actually become successful. The playing fields were quite uneven, right? You had to kind of be born in a good family, be a little bit lucky, and of course had this thing called discipline. But today, the playing field is pretty even for most people. Of course, the guy who was born into a rich family may be a little ahead of you, but you can still catch up to them and you can still achieve amazing success because we have social media, we have all this information out there. We got ChatGPT, man. You aren't missing information anymore. People are simply just missing the characteristics they need to put it together. And so discipline is going to be one of those characteristics you need. And let's actually talk about discipline. Let's get into it. So discipline is doing what you need to do even when you don't feel like doing it. Right? It's a simple definition of what this is, but it's going to be a lot more complex. We're going to discuss a lot of topics that are going to open your mind actually around discipline and talking about your subconscious, talking about your nervous system even, talking about a lot of cool stuff in here. It's going to really expand your mind around discipline and allow you to achieve high levels of discipline because, once you really understand what something is, especially a word like this that's so big and something that's so powerful, now you can actually equip yourself with it. Now you can actually use it correctly. Discipline is the one skill that if you master, it will cascade into the rest of what you do and help you ultimately become more successful. I say this is one of the most important videos you watch because I like to focus on, what's the one thing that will cascade into the rest of my success, right? Some people call it the 80-20 rule. I just call it what's the one thing that will cascade in the rest of my success. So for my daily success, it'd be my morning journaling. All right. I know if I do this every single morning and I write down my goals, I set the intention for the day, I rewrite my big goals as well, I'll end up just being a lot more focused. I'll do the things I actually need to do to move the needle ahead. And that's just what makes it easy. I don't need any hacks for the day to achieve my goals or figure out what to do. The morning journaling helps me out. And then actually learning what discipline is and growing your discipline muscle, that's the one thing that will cascade into the rest of what you do. So let's get into the introduction. The truth about discipline. Most people think discipline is going to be something like willpower, right? It's not. Willpower is an emotion. It's in the word. If I feel like I have the power, I will. Willpower. Discipline is a muscle you build, literally changing your neurons inside of your brain, So, a lot of people, they describe I got to get more disciplined, or they kind of think about it almost like an emotion, right? If I'm feeling disciplined, I'll kind of do something. That's willpower. You want to stay away from that because that's very emotional. And no matter what in life, emotions are going to wax and wane. And that's why we do need discipline because emotions, all they simply are is notifications for certain things in your life. They're never a really good reflection of something you should pay a lot of attention to. They are notifications. For example, I say depression is a notification for self-preservation. If you're not feeling good, you're probably out of alignment. Something needs to change. Something in your life is off. All right. So emotions are good notifications, but you should never be super attached to them. And you should never rely on them. All right. Discipline is what you want to rely on. It's a muscle. You will never master discipline by trying. The only way to master is just to do it too. So in order to master discipline, you must reprogram your identity on a deep level. You can't try to be disciplined. You just must do. You just must be disciplined. All right. And so we'll also open up the conversation about maybe how you talk to yourself or how you look at yourself right now at the moment. And that's also going to help you become a lot more disciplined because even the small words of saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, I'm trying to get this done versus I'm going to get this done, I'm going to be up at that time, setting those little things can change a lot. So let's get to chapter number 1. Discipline is a muscle. Have you ever had a phase of being so locked in and also having a phase of being so not locked in? Because I know I have. I've had those times, so locked in. I'm thinking bodybuilding prep 2024, last year. All right. So locked in, up at the same time every single day, eating the same meal, same time, doing the same thing like every single day. And then there was times where I'm up at 3 p.m. some days, up at 6 a.m. the other days, up at 12 the other days, doing random things. Right? I'm sure you've been through phases like that. Hopefully you have. If you haven't been through a super locked in phase yet, well, it's exciting to go through, honestly, and I hope we can get you there through this video. But I believe every man has to go through like a 6-month period of just like being so locked in, because it will change your life. Once you like actually can see where you can bring yourself to on a level of discipline, it is inspiring. You don't always have to live there, but it's good to kind of have that there so you can bring yourself there when you need to bring yourself there. Most of us who have been there and are not there right now are probably asking yourselves the question, well, how do I get back there? If you're not there right now, but you have been there, you're probably asking yourself the question, how do I get back there? Well, I'll answer that. It's simple. Practice discipline. Since discipline is a muscle, it weakens when it's not used and it strengthens when it's trained, right? So like I said, if you have been to that spot before where you're like super locked in, but you can't really figure out like, why am I not there right now? What's going on, right? It's a simple answer. It's the fact that you just haven't been practicing discipline to the level of which you need to practice it to, which may multiple different reasons. Maybe life right now doesn't require it from you. Maybe you went through that phase for super long and you need to take a little break from it. Multiple different things could be going on, but I just want to let you know, like, if you want to get back into that phase right now, maybe you have some big goal you want to go after. Maybe you're just sick of things right now. Like, you need to lock in. Just understand it's like, you just have to do it. You just have to get yourself to just do it. And then over time, that will your discipline muscle will strengthen once again, and it will become easy like it did last time. Every time you hold yourself to your word, you increase your capacity to handle discomfort, meaning you build discipline too. So like if you're struggling to kind of get into that momentum phase of being super locked in, it's simply just because there's probably some faults in what you say and what you actually do. You got to find those little faults. You got to fix those cracks. Where do you start though? Well, the answer is simple, but it's also the ugly answer. You start by realizing the way you do one thing is the way you do absolutely everything. So I want to open up this conversation, the things I highlight. I do want to open up a little bit more. So I truly believe in this quote right here: the way you do one thing is the way you're going to do everything in life. So what I mean by this is, let's say you're trying to get back into that phase. You're really trying to lock in on whatever it is you want to do. All right, I'm sure you're here to, get in shape, build your social media, build your business, quit your job, something along those lines, right? And so that's going to take a phase of being super locked in, a season of no, which Alex Hormozi describes as like you say no to everything besides just this one thing at the moment. And the only way to get there is, by practicing discipline, but by noticing in the subtle areas of life, maybe where you were lacking that discipline as well. Because a lot of the times when we're trying to get really locked in, we're focusing on the big areas, right? The really big areas, but it's really the small areas that if you also focus on those and you start to become very disciplined in those areas, it's a lot easier to become very disciplined in the big areas as well, right? So this is really little things. Look at the little ways you do everything. So down to the micro scale of like, do you have to like consume a bunch of content while eating food, or can you just sit there and eat food, right? Do you have to do some whole morning routine, or can you just sit down at the computer and just work, right? Do you always need your headphones and always need a bunch of pre-workout to go to the gym, or you can just like go to the gym if you have to, right? Can you just do the hard thing even though you don't want to do the hard thing? Can you just focus on the moment and just do the thing? Or do you need all these different things, right? Also, look at how often you get distracted, right? How often are you picking up your phone? How often are you checking your notifications? How often does your phone actually take you away from work? How many times right now in this video have you already looked at your phone, clicked around tabs, and honestly, probably if you're watching this on YouTube, let's see, I would say 70 to 80% of the people who clicked on it already clicked off it. Even though they want to build discipline, they're probably this far into the video and they're just like, I want to go do something else, Their dopamine levels just weren't spiked enough, so they went and did something else, so they already checked their phone. And so like right now, if you want to build discipline, then like don't check your phone for the rest of this video. It may be over an hour long. You may be like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Well, cool, then don't be disciplined. But if you want to become disciplined, put the phone away, put on do not disturb, clear your desk, clear your mind, and just focus on one thing. Like that's your first challenge. If you can't be focused on this simple video right here, that's probably actually gonna give you some dopamine. Well, how are you gonna be focused on like work? When you sit down with that Google document, or you sit down to go build your client's plan, or when you sit down to go write content and film it, like how are you gonna be disciplined then? You're gonna be all over the place, right? So look at all these areas of life. And the best question I like to ask myself is like, how full am I actually in that moment? Is my full presence in that moment, or am I fully distracted all of the time? The only reason I think this video is going to come out really well is because I'm just fully in this moment. Phone's not doing disturb. It's off. It's been a quiet day. Haven't done much besides just work, sit at the computer, take a quick nap, which really cleared my mind. There was a lot of things going on. It took me like half an hour to fall asleep. But like I had to kind of like clear the mind, then boom, 30 minutes of sleep. And then since then it's just been drink this Red Bull and get right to this video. So my mind is super clear, right? And that's why I think this video is going to come out really well. My work is going to come out really well because I'm super focused on just this moment, right? I mean, just this, that's it, right? I didn't allow myself to get super distracted by my phone or what's going on social media or blah, blah, blah. Just focus on this. But that all starts in the other areas of your life, right? So you cannot be disciplined in your work. Here, let me restart that. You cannot be disciplined in your work and not be disciplined in the gym. So what I mean by that is like, if you are disciplined in your work, then you're going to be disciplined in the gym, right? But if you aren't disciplined in the gym, you're not going to be disciplined in your work either. You can't be disciplined in your personal finances if you're not disciplined with your phone, right? You can't be disciplined in one area and not disciplined in the other. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you're at the gym and you're always on your phone, man, you got to watch TikTok while you're working out. I see guys do it all the time. They can watch TikTok while working out. It's like you're going to have to watch TikTok while working as well. All right. So just like pay attention to all these areas of life. Where are you getting distracted? Where can you not just focus on the work and focus on the moment? Where do you have to spike your dopamine just to do the thing? All right. Because if you can identify those areas, start to clean them up, start to become disciplined there, start to become focused there, like the rest of everything else will become super easy. So like when I'm going on bodybuilding prep, which is extremely hard, and I've only been through 2. I've never been through anything super hard in bodybuilding prep, but like I changed my lifestyle around drastically. I mean, I set a screen time on my phone for like 2-3 hours. I'm not in that bitch much at all. I'm waking up super early, staying off the phone, just doing the cardio. Sometimes I'll even do that shit just silent, but typically it's like popping a podcast. There's little subtleties there where it's like you don't have to be a freak and just do cardio silent, but you know what I'm saying. And just become super disciplined with everything I do. Eat at the same time, do things at the same time. Even if I got, 5 hours of sleep, I'm still going to wake up at 5 a.m. And maybe I'll just take a nap later just because like that discipline of just like sticking to my word that I said I'm going to wake up at the same time so I can eat my meals by this time, like kind of still be in my schedule. Like it's super important to me or else I start to fall off, or I start to eat like extra food. And so like through the 2 preps I've been in, when I start kind of like negotiating with that daily routine and negotiating with these little like non-negotiables, I start to negotiate with like the really important things like, how much I'm eating, my macros, and sometimes even training as well, actually like leaving the gym earlier, stopping the cardio 2-3 minutes before, because like, it's just enough, right? The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so discipline isn't an isolation exercise. It's going to be a full body workout, right? You shouldn't be aiming just to become disciplined in your work. You should be aiming to become disciplined in every single area of your life, right? Because it isn't an isolation exercise. You can't just become disciplined with work. You have to become disciplined in every single other area. It's just the way it works because discipline is a self-identity. It is a shift in mindset. It is a muscle, right? So it's a full body workout. On a deep level, what is happening when you're building discipline is you are changing your subconscious programming on a deep level. You either are the man that can focus on work or you are the man that procrastinates. It's either one or the other. All right. And this is in every single area. If you procrastinate when the alarm goes off in the morning, you're going to procrastinate when it's time to post that piece of content, when it's time to take that sales, when it's time to do the hard thing. It's just, that's the way it is. And I'm sure you've had those days. You wake up on time, you get right out of bed. It's a great day. But the next day you're tired, the alarm goes off, you're rolling around for 30 minutes, then the rest of your day kind of feels sluggish. You feel like you're negotiating just a little bit more, right? Pay attention to the patterns. You either are the man that pushes through struggle, or stops when it gets uncomfortable. You're either one or the other, The truth is, discipline is black and white. You either are or you're not. That's the truth about it. All right. And I just want to nail that down because it will become so much easier for you to become more disciplined in the areas you really want to become disciplined in. If you become disciplined in the other areas, they're like, oh, I don't need much discipline there. I don't need too much there, right? I need to become disciplined over here. If you focus on all the areas and just have this realization, it will become so easy for you. This is the harsh truth because it means to be disciplined. It may require an entire lifestyle change. That's the truth about it, is you may have to do an entire lifestyle change. Maybe for years, you've been the guy who, you scroll a little bit in the morning in your bed, right? You procrastinate in these certain areas. You just do these certain things that are very kind of undisciplined of you, right? You may have to completely change that around. And that's the truth about it. And most people will tell me, maybe I'm setting up for failure by telling you to make a drastic change in your lifestyle. But the other harsh truth is, when it comes to discipline, you need to either be in or you need to be out. That's the truth. You got to be like, okay, I'm fully in on this right now, or I'm fully out on it right now. There's going to be phases to your life, but I'm sure this phase of your life right now, it's like, you're like, I want to achieve these certain things. I got to level myself up. I got to go somewhere. So I got to be disciplined at the moment. Once you get there, well, it's up to you if you want to keep pushing or if you feel like, okay, I need a couple month break, enjoy myself a little, get some inspiration and go back at it. But right now you're in the phase where you probably really got to lock in. You probably really got to become disciplined. So it's just like, choose to be all in every single day on every single area of your life, being disciplined. If you give yourself an out on being disciplined, how do you expect to have the discipline to not take that out? Think about that. All right. So if you're giving yourself these outs to not be disciplined, how do you expect yourself to have that discipline to not take that out? And what I mean by this is, think about any bad habit you may have at the moment. Vaping, drinking, going out, video games, corn, etc. Right? Think about any bad habit, even down to the littlest one. Procrastination. You set your alarm right next to your bed instead of setting it across the room so you have to get up, right? If you give yourself any other bridge, any out of being disciplined, how do you expect to have the discipline to not take that out? So like I said, you're probably gonna have to make a massive lifestyle change simply because of this, right? It's a lot more intelligent just to completely make the change. So you have to force yourself to become disciplined versus like, oh, I'm just gonna wean off. I'm just gonna change just a little, I'm gonna try my best. It's like, that is actually what's gonna set you up for failure, right? You may struggle more through the process, but hey, it's like either way, you're going to have to pay the price. In my personal opinion, when it comes to some type of goal, some type of change, there's a price attached to it. Right? So you can either pay it off slowly or you can pay it off really quick. 3 days, all your life sucks, but now you're disciplined. Versus like, oh, you're trying to wean off it for weeks, like with vaping or some shit. And I've been there. I started vaping when I was 13 years old. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. All throughout that, I decided, you know what? This shit's dumb. Why am I doing this? Why am I sucking at a Chinese AC unit? It doesn't make any sense. And so I started to wean off it. You know what I did? I would hit the vapes until they die. But guess what? There was ways to recharge them with fucking wires in your room. So I'd be like, oh, it's dead. I'd throw it away. Middle of the night, you're craving. You go to the fucking trash can. You pull out the vape like a crack addict and you charge it up. Boom, boom, a couple times. It's like, I never actually quit until I completely threw it all away. And especially stopped hanging around the friends that had vapes as well. There was times, okay, now I don't have any. They're not in my garbage. There's no way for me to hit a vape at all. But then I would go hang around that friend on like Saturday. He would have the vape on him. And I would just be looking at it, be like, yo, let me tap that real quick. Or even when they're not looking, just take that shit and hit it real quick. Like, it was that bad. And I never fully quit until I gave myself no out. No out. I removed everything from my life that would cause me to not be disciplined. I had to be disciplined now. I had to do the hard thing, and that was just quit and get over it. If you throw away your vape, you may last a couple of days until your willpower burns out and you go to the store and buy another. Now, here's the next step, though. Right? So that's what most people do, and that's what most people, the cycle they kind of go through. Now, it's like, how do you increase the stakes of that to kind of force yourself to be disciplined? If you give your ID to your parents or friends and tell them to not let you have it back for a month, you then are a lot more likely to be disciplined when willpower runs out, because you kind of now have to. You gotta be like, yo, mom, give me your ID. She's like, oh, you trying to go buy another vape? And you're like, yeah. And she's like, fuck you, no. Now you kind of have to be a lot more disciplined. So this is like, how can you kind of set up walls in your life, or just completely get rid of all the bridges, so you walk down the one bridge you want to walk down? A lot of the times people just don't achieve their goals is because they have too many opportunities. They give themselves too many opportunities, right? But it's like, you probably just want one thing in life. Your mind is set on this one thing. That's the one opportunity you want to achieve. So like, remove all the other bridges towards the other opportunities. Put as many walls up as possible, so you stay focused, stay disciplined towards the one opportunity that you want to achieve. The point I'm trying to get here is, if you're struggling with discipline, the length to which you go to force yourself to build discipline, the discipline muscle, the stronger the discipline muscle will become, right? So that's just kind of a mindset to have. If there's any specific thing that you really want to become disciplined with, like, go to an extreme length to kind of force yourself just to do that, whatever it may be, whatever goal you may have. Curate your lifestyle, your environment, your mind, your even your friends, everything around you, in a way where it promotes that. It promotes that discipline, and it removes any negotiation. It removes any undisciplined activities that may happen. So that'd be the introduction here. Let's get into chapter number 2, the 3 pillars of discipline. To master discipline, you need alignment across these 3 pillars. First off is clarity, right? The clearer your desired outcome, the more attainable the outcome actually is. This is because discipline is simply knowing exactly what you want, so you can discern between what will get you there and what won't get you there. The most common reason people struggle with discipline is because their goal is so surface level, it's probably not even their own goal. Think about that. I was talking to this guy last night at the gym, and he was like, yeah, I fell off a bit on this, this online coaching thing I was trying to start. And first off, I'm just looking at him. I'm like, first, you got no reason being a coach. It's like, you're not insanely jacked. I mean, you look like a regular guy. I don't think you have a high level of discipline and stuff like that either. Like, I just don't think you have any position to really be there. I'll be quite honest with you. Now I didn't say that to him. I'm gonna let him do his thing and kind of have his, have life figured out for him. But he was kind of chasing this online coaching thing because of other people. Straight up. He was like, oh, these are other people achieving success with it, so I'm going to go after it, right? And so that will work out for some people, but for him, it wasn't his own original goal. There was no actually depth to it. There wasn't any depth to it at all. And that's why he ultimately failed on that journey, because there was no strong meaning behind it. There was no actually clear vision. It was just like, oh, this is the one thing that can kind of make me money. It wasn't like, me over here, I got a mission I'm on. When I lost my sister, I was like, I got to make a massive change. And I did that, and I'm like, I got to really help out this generation. My why is so much stronger. I have a very clear desired outcome here. And the clearer the desired outcome, the more powerful it is, the more attainable it is actually going to be. So you got to really ask yourself, like, where your goals coming from, right? Are they very surface level at the moment? Are they from somebody else? Because what needs to happen is, you need to have a clear desired outcome, and it needs to be meaningful to you. It needs to be deep to you, because that's when you can actually be very disciplined towards it. But in order to do the hard work, even when you don't want to, outcomes need to be attached to actions that you must take to move the needle ahead, right? So like, if you don't understand the meaning behind certain actions you're taking to achieve something, the actions aren't meaningful to you. They don't mean a lot. So you're going to do them for a little until you don't get a result, and you're like, oh, didn't work out. This isn't for me, right? Where in the first place, you should have gone after something meaningful to you, something that you want to do. And then all of the actions you got to take to actually achieve that are super meaningful to you. You're like, I understand why doing this hard thing is important to me, right? And so you're actually going to do the hard thing. You're fine with doing the hard thing because it's meaningful to you. Yeah, outcomes can only be attached to actions if you know your goals deeply and it is meaningful to you, like I said. Clarity on what it is you want. If clarity on what it is you want is a struggle to you, spend 15 to 30 minutes in the morning or even at night kind of visualizing or meditating. This is something I did a lot, like the very beginning of my journey is I would just spend like the mornings and especially the nights and like really just a lot throughout the day, really visualizing what it is that I wanted out of life, like living here in Miami, having a nice crib, driving a cool car, working out here, become successful here and stuff like this. Like this has been a visualization for many, 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 many years. So it became very meaningful to me, right? When I saw the actions I must take in order to get here, I was willing to take those. I was willing to make the sacrifices. I was willing to do what I wanted to do or what I needed to do to get there because it was meaningful to me, right? There's a strong visualization behind it because the clearer your goal, the more depth you actually have behind it, behind that vision, the more likely you are to do the hard things to get there. I say at the morning or at night because that's when your subconscious mind is most vulnerable to change as well, right? Your subconscious mind is like the powerful part of your mind that you can't really think in. Think about it like this, like, you know how there's computers with screens? There's like laptops, but like think about a desktop that has like an HDMI cable attached to a screen. Like the desktop is the subconscious, the screen is the conscious mind. Conscious mind is what you're thinking in, what you're talking out of, what you're talking to yourself with. The subconscious mind, that's the part you can't really access or think about, but it's like it's there. It's like the deep level of programming you have. And so you want to change that level of programming so you change the output you get on the screen. The practice is simple though, 15 to 30 minutes, morning, night, whenever. Well, not whenever, but especially morning and night, but whenever throughout the day as well. No phone, no distractions, no sound, or early meditation music. Focusing on who you want to become in life. That's the biggest thing, right? Not just the outcomes, but seeing the man you become along that journey. Visualize how it will feel to finally touch the steering wheel of your dream car. Imagine what that drive home from the dealership will feel like. The more powerful the desire, the easier it is to achieve, right? So I used to place myself kind of in these visions in life, which are very similar to what I'm kind of currently living, and kind of just like ignite all of my senses in those visualizations. How does it sound? How does it feel? What does it smell like? All those different things, right? And so that visualization became very powerful, and your mind really doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is fake. And so your mind actually starts to believe that visualization, starts to believe that's who you're becoming. And you'll come to find out like what you believe your future is going to be, not only on the shallow level, the subconscious level, but especially the subconscious level, that deep level is really where you're going to end up. Wherever you are in life right now was actually your whole intention 3 or 6 months ago, whether you knew it or not. It really is. And that's another harsh truth. So get very specific, get very directional. And like I said, pillar number 1, clarity. Get very clear on where you want to go, the man you want to become, and what that all looks like. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Ignite all those senses in that visualization. Pillar 2, structure. Not to spoil anything, but the next pillar is identity. And the highest level of discipline is identity. Once the way you view yourself shifts, discipline no longer feels like discipline actions. It just feels normal. So the whole idea behind structure is to build structure in your life that will push you to shift your self-identity. All right, shifting your self-identity first starts in the mind, then it actually becomes real once you take the actions to align yourself with that self-identity. So that's why before we talk about identity, structure comes first. If you ever read the book Atomic Habits, you will understand the simple concept that thoughts lead to actions, actions lead to habits, and habits leading to a new life. Pillar number 1, clarity, covered thoughts, right? Think about where you want to go. Now it's time to take new actions that will lead to new habits. And to find structure, just ask yourself the simple question, what would the version of myself living my goal, living my desired outcome do on a daily basis, right? And, you may think to yourself, well, I don't exactly know. Hey, man, just put yourself in that person's shoes. What do you think it looks like? What do you think that day-to-day kind of life looks like? What does his structure look like? And just start to operate like that person. If you're trying to grow your social media, the version of yourself with a big following would probably spend a couple hours a day filming content, right? So if that's what your goal looks like, the best you looks like, then now you have to create structure in your life to actually start filming content a couple hours out of the day. If you're trying to convert your audience, the version of yourself making sales would probably be in his DMs, booking calls and taking sales calls. That's your goal. That's what that person would probably do. So you create structure to do that every single day. The goal is to identify the top 1 to 3 highest leverage actions and start putting as much time you can each day towards those actions. All right. So once again, you get clear on where you want to go, get clear on what that looks like, kind of like the action steps to get there. And then you create structure to start aligning yourself with that today. You can't align yourself 100% with it, most likely. So you got to start aligning the time you do have, the parts of your life where you do have that free time with that, so you eventually get there. Structure is less about what time you wake up and what time you go to sleep, and more about what are the most important actions to take to achieve your goal. All right. When a lot of people think structure, it's like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 5. I'm going to go to sleep at 10. I'm going to do this, that, and the third. Like, yeah, that's part of structure. But go a deeper level down. It's like, what are the most important actions to actually move you towards your goal? Right. That waking up time, that going to sleep time, that, those things, like, we should already be doing that, man. We should already be doing that, right? We got to take a look at, like, what are the actions that are really going to push us towards that goal, that are actually going to make progress. And that's what we got to put a lot of time on, as much as possible every single day. Then optimize your life to put as much time towards those actions as possible. This is how you move the needle ahead and shift your self-identity as fast as possible. And that brings to pillar number 3, identity. Identity is less of a pillar and more of the finish line. The way you know you've successfully shifted your self-identity is when you no longer have that imposter syndrome that posting content or taking sales calls used to make you feel, right? I'm sure maybe you feel that right now, or if you don't, you're probably going to feel it down the road where you get a little bit of that imposter syndrome. You're like, this really isn't me. Maybe you've never posted content, you start to post and you're like, I don't know who I am on here. I don't know if I'm worthy of this. Like, you're going to have that along the way. And once you no longer have that, that's how you know you have successfully shifted your self-identity. You went from somebody who's like trying to post content to a content creator. You went from somebody trying to make the first sale to running a business, right? It's the whole idea behind it. And this is when progress starts to flourish, because what is more important than action is the belief behind the action, the underlying identity behind the action you're taking. It changes the outcome drastically. It really does, right? There can be one person who uploads a piece of content talking about discipline, and they don't actually believe that they can talk about discipline or are a disciplined person. And so no one's going to listen because they can just feel it through that screen. They're like, this guy doesn't really believe in himself. There's another person who talks about discipline, who is very disciplined, who believes he's a disciplined person, and that underlying belief, the underlying self-identity is going to drastically change how he shows up, talking about maybe the same exact script. And more people are actually going to connect with it because they kind of feel the energy transference through the screen, right? So put this all together, we know discipline is doing what we must do, even when we don't feel like doing it. The same goes for stepping into the identity, the version of yourself who has already achieved your goals has, even when it doesn't feel right. Example, even when I show up to the gym tired, not really feeling myself, I will visualize a version of myself absolutely crushing that workout and step into that identity each and every single moment, even though my current identity feels tired and sluggish. I've been there. I'm tired and sluggish doing my work at the gym, whatever it may be. So what I'll do is I'll create a visualization of exactly how the next 1 to 2 hours is going to go, seeing myself just kind of crushing it, even though he's that way. And I get aligned with that person moment by moment. I just show up as that person. Because that's the other part of discipline, is just like inheriting that self-identity, even when you don't feel like it. Because you can do that. You 100% can do that. Don't believe you can't. You can do that. You can feel energetic even when you're tired. Like, you're capable of that. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is fake. If you can trick your brain into believing a reality, you can trigger the emotional response you need in order to become that individual you need to become in that moment, right? So if you can truly believe, like, this is how the next 2 hours, the 3 hours, this is how my life is going to go, that will trigger an emotional response to help you actually become that individual. Chapter 3, environment. Environment is the one thing that has the biggest influence on you, the biggest. And if any part of you right now is saying, thank God we are talking about environment, I hate my friends, they're always dragging me out. Well, here's the truth. Your environment is something you're in control of. A lot of people like to blame a lot of things on their environment, their friends, where they live, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get it. It's easy to blame that, but like, you are in control of your environment. And I'm talking about the environment in terms of, I'm not talking about the environment in terms of like you live up north or you live down south. No matter where you live, you're probably going to do the same shit. I could take you out of wherever you're living right now that you think is like, that's the reason you're unsuccessful, and bring you here, and you're still probably going to be the same person. Maybe you're a little bit more motivated, but like at the end of the day, probably still going to be a very similar person. What I'm instead actually is, what I am instead speaking about is what you allow and disallow in your environment, right? So like, if you're going out on the weekends because like, upstate New York is boring, there's nothing to do. Well, it could bring you to Miami, and you're probably still going to go on the weekends just because that's you. That's your identity. But I but I am instead speaking on what you allow and disallow in your environment. Let's start with the simplest case study of your environment. That's going to be your room. If you look around your room right now and it appears a bit messy, crumbs are everywhere, a couple things out of place, maybe you could use some vacuuming. You have a messy environment. Well, that will tell me you have a messy mind. Things do get messy sometimes, but like if you can keep your environment more clean, like simple as your room, you're going to keep your mind more clean. I don't know if you ever had those days where you're like, you have the cleaning days, right? You vacuum, you clean up and stuff like that. Don't you just feel like so much more mentally clear, so much better after? Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? Your environment is a direct reflection of really what's going on inside of your mind. Someone's environment is nearly a direct reflection of who they are internally. Now, here's the cool thing. Once you realize this and take control of your environment, everything changes. You can literally go clean out your room right now and feel like a different person after. Now, you might say, well, my favorite entrepreneur who's more successful than you, Ryan, doesn't make his bed in the morning. And okay, you are here and he is there. And he is there probably because he did everything in his power to get as lucky as possible to get there. So why won't you do everything possible to become as lucky as possible to get there as well? When you clean the physical, you clean the mental. When the mental is clean, you can direct thought power to what matters most. By the way, this also goes for relationships as well. If anyone in your social environment is cluttering your mind, draining your energy, or imposing limiting beliefs on you, clean them from your life, right? That's what I'm talking about when it comes to environment, is make drastic changes there, right? You got to get very clear. You gotta curate an environment that allows you to become disciplined, that builds you up with energy, that removes limiting beliefs and stuff like that. And so you got to find those little things: friends, your room, your bathroom, maybe how your fridge looks, et cetera, and clean all those things up so you get a clear mind and a clear road to success. Chapter 4, cue, routine, and reward. Every rewarding habit follows this psychological pattern in your brain. Cue, you grab your pre-workout and shaker to get ready for the gym. That's the cue. Routine, you now drive to the gym while sipping on your pre-workout. That's the routine. Reward, you have an amazing workout. That's the reward. You come to realize almost every habit you have has some type of cue associated with it. For this example above, you probably feel naked going to the gym without pre or working out with headphones. You ever been there? You're like, oh, I forgot the pre or I forgot my headphones. And now you just feel like way different about it. You're like, oh, my workout sucked because I didn't have headphones. It's because of the cue, routine, and reward. The cue wasn't there. You failed to do the routine, and there really wasn't the reward you usually get. Now, there are two parts to this. One, destroying cues leading to bad habits, and two, creating cues that lead to good habits. So let's start off with destroying cues. If you have any bad habits you want to break, like I said earlier, vaping, video games, corn, scrolling too much, write it down on a piece of paper like right now. Grab out a piece of paper, write it down right now. Now take a moment and ask yourself, what typically happens right before I do this, right? Take a look at what happens right before you vape, right before you play video games, right before you go on corn, right before you do anything that you just know isn't super beneficial, that isn't very disciplined of you. And ask yourself, what is the cue that is leading to this routine that is eventually giving me a reward? And what you were looking for is that cue associated with that bad habit. For vaping, you probably find yourself hitting it too much when you're bored with nothing to do, which is the worst time to vape, by the way. If you're vaping when you're doing nothing and just giving yourself that dopamine when you're doing absolutely nothing, then you're literally just rewarding yourself for doing nothing. It's kind of dumb if you really think about it. So if the cue is nothing to do and then you vape, well, the simple fix is always have something to do. So pack your schedule with activities, start vaping less, then eventually stop being a pussy and just throw it away. So I've been through vaping, I've been vaping since I was 13, like I said. Quit it when I was 18 or something. And I found myself in really bad vaping addictions when I had nothing to do. I was going to them quicker. I was more addicted. I felt like more shit on them when I was just doing nothing. And so I was like, oh, let me get a job. Let me do something with myself. Let me just pack my schedule. And first off, I found myself vaping less. Second off, I found myself feeling better. And third off, I found it a lot easier to just quit. So on the piece of paper, write down any bad habit you have that you want to destroy. And then think about what is the cue set associated with that. And now start actually destroying those cues. Start changing your life in a way to make sure that cue doesn't occur, right? Now let's move on to creating cues. If there's a certain habit you struggle with, maybe it's recording content, maybe it's sitting down and doing work, whatever the case may be, the fix is simple. It's still not easy, but it's simple. What you want to do is associate a cue with the new habit you're trying to build. So then every single time you receive reward, dopamine from your brain, from this habit, that craving for the cue becomes even stronger, making it more attractive to actually do the hard thing. So let me give you a real life personal example that works for me. Um, so I'm completely against vaping, but I still am for nicotine. I think it's great. I personally consume Zyns, 6 milligram peppermints. These are my favorite. These are amazing. The way I use Zyns is I pair them with things that don't give me much dopamine. So things like working out, going on walks, watching YouTube videos, and etc. All things that give me dopamine. So I don't consume Zyns around those activities. But writing in Google Documents like this, like when I was writing this, making videos like this sometimes, and working with clients sometimes on high level problems aren't very high dopamine activities for me. It's quite boring to write a Google document. It's quite boring to just sit here and make a video like this. It's quite boring to sometimes, dig into the specifics of like client work and stuff like that and look at analytics of videos and blah, blah, blah. They're kind of like low dopamine activities, but I still got to do them. So I pair Zyns with this activity to enjoy them even more. This is also how I was able to bring my focus level from degenerate level to being able to do 4 to 6 hour deep work blocks without anything but a bathroom break. Like Mastering the Art of Discipline document right here, which is 16 pages long. I pretty much did, I think, in a single morning with just a couple bathroom breaks. Now, best case scenario, you don't start a nicotine addiction. If you aren't using nicotine right now, I wouldn't recommend picking it up. But I was doomed since birth to be an addict. I mean, everybody was consuming nicotine in my family. I started that shit when I was 13. I've been without it before for months on months and months. I found my life better with it. Not the vaping type, the Zyns though. I found my life way better with it. So here's some other things you compare low dopamine activities with though. Gum, coffee, music, even a certain outfit, energy drinks, etc. I got my Red Bull right here. This is something that helps me out as well. These are some ideas that come to mind with things you compare low dopamine activities with to maybe enjoy them a bit more, right? Remember, it isn't going to change overnight. Your brain has to receive multiple reward hits of dopamine after completing that task for the cue to become strongly associated with it. So that's why a lot of people have like gym addictions, because not only like the reward of like hitting the gym after you already feel great, but because of things like pre-workout especially, you build not only an addiction to the dopamine that working out gives you, but addiction to the energy drink that working out gets you as well. And that's why it's like when 5 o'clock hits, if that's the regular time you hit the gym, it's like, oh, I can't wait to go. You're so excited to go. All right. Because of the simple cue, routine, and reward thing. All right. So once you kind of understand that, you'll be able to flawlessly destroy bad habits a lot easier and flawlessly build good habits a lot easier as well. Chapter 5, dopamine levels. Let's create a fake dopamine scale. Let's say it ranges from 0 to 1,000 dopamine points. 90% of men are probably in a situation where their life looks like this. Scrolling on the phone in the morning gives them 100 dopamine points. Eating something sugary right in the morning gives them 50 dopamine points. Vaping all day, well, that gives them a total of 400 dopamine points. Going to their 9 to 5, well, that gives them 40 dopamine points. Working out after their 9 to 5, 80 dopamine points. Eating and watching TV when home, 150 dopamine points. A grand total of 820 dopamine points. Outcome of the day. They still look the same and they still make the same amount of money. They're in the same exact spot. They're stuck. That's it. Now let's look at what the top 10% of men, the top 10% of men's most day kind of looks like. They wake up early and smash their alarm clock. 40 dopamine points. They're like, alarm goes off, boom, they smash it, they get right out of bed, and they feel good about themselves. It gives them some dopamine that they were disciplined. The cue, routine, reward. Cue, alarm goes off, the routine, get right out of bed. The reward is, well, like now they've been doing it for consecutive weeks and they feel way better and they're getting more successful and they're achieving their goals more. So it actually gives them dopamine. 2 hour deep work block right away, 40 dopamine points. Hit a workout, 80 dopamine points. Another deep work block or 9 to 5, 40 dopamine points. Dinner with friends or girlfriend, 150 dopamine points. Getting to bed on time, 10 dopamine points. A daily total of 360 dopamine points. Outcome of the day, less fake dopamine, making the real dopamine even stronger. Now, these are two made-up realities, but I'm sure even as I read through them, you felt two completely different emotions. The first one probably made you feel a bit sluggish. The second one probably made you feel a bit excited. A little higher heart rate. At least that's how I felt when I was writing it. The whole goal of this chapter is to help you understand your baseline dopamine levels and how to bring it down so you can enjoy doing the hard things a lot more. The goal isn't really to increase the dopamine you get from the hard things, yet that is still something we do want to trigger, something that can be beneficial. But more importantly in this chapter, decreasing the fake dopamine so your baseline dopamine levels come down and you enjoy the things that give you 40 dopamine points, for example. So here's how to do it. Take a hard audit right now on a piece of paper of everything you do in a week that is possibly feeding you fake dopamine. Take another piece of paper out, write it all down. Now, all you need to simply start doing is removing those activities from your life day by day. The next chapter will help you with this, but to wrap this one up, here's the last part. Once you have successfully removed the activities giving you fake dopamine, cross it off on a piece of paper to trigger a reward. So you write down, I want to quit vaping, all right? And now you're going to get rid of it. You're going to go crush it, stop being a pussy, not vape again. And then after a week has gone by and you fully remove that bad habit, you cross off on the piece of paper and you get a little reward from it. You're like, boom, got one thing crossed off. Not like, especially if this is meaningful to you, like your goals have to be meaningful to you. If like quitting this bad habit is meaningful to you, once you were like crossing it off and you actually quit it, like you're going to get reward out of it. And if you want to go a step further, you can even create a bunch of boxes on a piece of paper or even a whiteboard and check them off on a daily basis when you step away from the activity. So here's one of the best accountability systems if you really want to kind of change your habits quickly. It's like write out all the good habits you want to have and write out all the bad habits you're trying to quit, like daily on a piece of paper or something like that, and put little check boxes by them. And so every single day you do the good habits and every single day you stay away from the bad habits, just check it off, because, 30 days from now, you're going to be able to see all these boxes filled out and you're going to feel really proud about yourself, very successful about yourself. And that should trigger the cue reward or the cue routine and reward thing, right? You actually get a reward from like writing down what you want to do, sticking to it, and achieving it. So that's kind of the whole idea behind the dopamine levels is, once again, look at all the low dopamine activities that you are doing. Even little things like maybe you're just like you have to scroll, you have to watch Netflix before bed. Just like put that right there, check it off. You're going to sleep way better. You're going to feel more energetic for the next day. Your deep work block right in the morning is going to be way better as well. All these little things really do compound up. Best time of my life for those 6 months, I wasn't watching any TikTok or any Netflix when I was laying in bed. I would just lay in bed, go straight to sleep. It was an amazing time of life. Chapter 6, catch, stop, and change. A large aspect of what we are doing here is changing the software in your brain. Now, humans, in my belief, are pretty difficult to change unless they know how to hack their mind, hack their psychology. See, when most people change, they simply just have a change of thinking for maybe a couple of days, some even maybe a couple of weeks. Then they go back to thinking the exact same. This isn't change. This is just emotional change. In order to change, it's up to you to manually rewire your software using this 3-step framework that I believe Mel Robbins came up with. Catch yourself, stop yourself, change yourself. The process is simple. Identify the thought patterns that you must simply break. Examples of this: talking down to yourself, procrastinating, that moment before you open up Pornhub, stuff like that. You want to be finding these kind of patterns you catch yourself in that are leading to just unsuccessful outcomes that you don't want. And start to catch yourself on a daily basis falling into that thought pattern. So first you have to become aware about the thought pattern that you're going to have to break, and then you got to start catching yourself falling into that thought pattern. So this is called procrastination, right? You get home from work, it's time to make content, right? And what's kind of been going on is like, I know I have to film this video, but I'm not really feeling it. I don't really know what to post. Let me just go to the gym first, then maybe I'll feel like it after. And you come to find out it's been 3 days, you haven't posted shit, right? And so you got to identify that thought pattern and be like, this pattern right here just isn't working out. It feels like it's working out, but in reality, it's not working out. I haven't done shit for the past 3 days. I've just thought. And you start catching yourself falling into that thought pattern. So now you come home and you're like, oh, I don't feel like I don't feel like I have any ideas. Wait. No, we already know where this leads to. And then simply stop yourself by becoming aware of that negative thought pattern. Wait, we already know where this leads to. And then finally doing something to change your thought pattern. Different self-talk or just directly taking action. So you catch yourself doing that. You stop yourself right there. And then you just do something. You either change the way you talk to yourself. You're like, no, I'm just going to post right now. Or you just take action. Fuck that. Let me pull it up and let me just start talking, right? Over enough time, with enough repetitions of manually changing your inner self-talk, that new pattern will become ingrained inside of your subconscious mind. That is the way to change your deep level of programming, is that catch yourself, stop yourself, change yourself. And what you're looking to do here is change your mental frameworks, change the patterns that your brain kind of runs through. Like your brain it's software. You can change it. You can change the programming of it. You just got to start to kind of find these patterns you start to like fall into, that you kind of generally think in, because life is just patterns. That's really all it is. Where you are right now is a direct reflection of your patterns 3 or 6 months ago. Right? And if you start to change those patterns, you will get different outcomes in life. So you got to catch those patterns. You got to stop those patterns. You got to change those patterns. You got to catch that negative self-talk. You got to stop that negative self-talk, and you got to change that to positive self-talk, and then take action. So that's chapter 6. Chapter 7, practicing controlled discomfort. The sad truth is most men won't become successful because their nervous system freaks out under pressure. The whole goal of practicing controlled discomfort is to progressively overload your nervous system's ability to handle stress. I've spent the past year in Miami, and I have 10 times my income simply because of the fact that every day I am here, my nervous system is overloaded. It took me almost 4 months of living here to ever even feel normal or to get a full night's worth of sleep. Now, you don't need to move to Miami to progressively overload your nervous system, because even before I was the man capable of making enough money to move to Miami, I was just at home in mellow upstate New York, doing ice baths, competing in bodybuilding shows, waking up at 5 a.m. after only sleeping 5 or 6 hours, even my 2-month trips to Thailand, progressively overloading my nervous system. Like, these were the things I was doing. The whole goal here is to always be doing something that is a bit uncomfortable. Right now, at the time of writing this, which was yesterday or the day before, even recording this, I'm not allowing myself to leave my apartment building until I make $10K cold hard cash, besides just go to the gym. I can't do anything until I achieve that. So I'm doing something uncomfortable to grow myself, which is giving myself no other option but to just do the hard thing. And I could blame what's going on in the economy right now, but I'm not going to do that, right? Remember, your level of success is always directly correlated with your ability to handle stress and bigger problems that come your way. So what I'm getting at right here is whoever it is you want to become in life, a part of that is progressively overloading this nervous system, the amount of stress you can handle, right? Because your level of success in any regard of life will be determined by your ability to manage and handle that stress that comes your way. Now, to give you a perspective here, to achieve success in today's day of age, it's nothing compared to what life was like hundreds of years ago. Like, you have it fucking easy. We have it fucking easy. You think it's fucking hard to post some content, take some sales calls, record some content like this, and go to the gym? Like, you think that's fucking difficult, bro? I mean, like 100, 200 years ago, if you were trying to build a business and it failed and, you lost all your money, like, you were fucked. You were absolutely fucked, bro. You're out in the streets. No one gives a fuck. You didn't have fucking food shelters. You didn't have all this government shit that could, support you if you failed. Now you do have that. If you're on the streets, bro, you'll be fine, bro. You'll be good. You'll probably even get fucking housing for free. They'd be giving motherfuckers apartment housing for free and free food. Sometimes even better than minimum wage workers. Like, it's not bad at all, right? So can't really be scared of failing. But just like realize how easy you do have it, and that should incentivize you just to do more hard shit. It really should. It should motivate you to even do more hard shit. It should inspire you to work 16 to 18-hour days. Because like, oh, I have it fucking easy. 16 to 18-hour days is nothing. That's nothing, man. You just gotta stay up and fucking work. Oh, well, you're a little bit tired. You sat at the desk all day and made fucking content. Cool, bro. Imagine the guy that was building the Empire State working 16 to 18-hour days, right? And then he got paid barely anything, and he probably fucking died in there. Like, you have it so easy. Have it so easy, okay? But what I'm saying right here is just always be doing hard things. Always be looking to progressively overload that nervous system. If you don't feel like you're kind of reaching the tipping point of burning out just a little, you aren't going hard enough. I'll be honest with you. You aren't building up your nervous system, all right, because you aren't doing enough difficult tasks that are increasing your level of stress, which is going to also increase your ability to actually manage that. And also like kind of detach from it as well. And I got very interested in this topic. So kind of how this works, kind of how stress works is it kind of starts in your adrenal glands. So like stress starts in the mind, start thinking, emotions go on, whatever goes on, but then it triggers your adrenal glands to produce certain hormones that actually like that's how you feel stressed, right? You start to feel stressed because the adrenals produce hormones and you feel that type of way. And so either way, you're going to get stressed. Like that's a part of it because the hormonal response is going to be triggered inside your body. But the whole idea behind this is to get better at dealing with it mentally, but especially on a actual like biochemistry level. Being able to actually tolerate more of that hormone, because your body will. The more you use something, the better your body will tolerate it. For caffeine, for example, it's like if you're using 400 milligrams every single day, eventually it feels normal. But if you use 600 the next day, you feel a little bit of a bump. Now, if you completely cut it out for one day, you're like going through withdrawals, right? So it's like if your adrenals are releasing hormones that are causing you to feel stressed, right? If you aren't pushing past your edge a little bit every single day, well, your adrenals are going to stop releasing hormones that are going to cause you to be stressed, and you're going to become very, very, very sensitive to whenever your adrenals release those hormones that are going to cause you to feel stressed, right? So you got to progressively overload not only the mental, but actual like your body's ability to handle those hormones and deal with them as well. All right. So you got to pick out phases in your life when you're really going to go hard. You're really going to go hard and always be doing hard things, but especially pick out these phases where you're really going to go hard and really push yourself. Right. So you build up that tolerance to everything that's going to come along that way. You're truly growing when your capacity to handle this. You're truly growing when you're growing your capacity to handle stress is when you find your nervous system, like I said a little bit earlier, kind of getting a little bit burnt out at times. You want to reach those points where you're like, fuck, can I actually do this? Like, can I make this work out? Kind of maybe second guessing yourself, feeling fucking like a little fatigued and you're struggling to get out of bed a little bit in the morning. Like that's how you know you're going hard. This is very unconventional advice that most people would probably disagree with. But if you are young, you should be pushing yourself to reach tipping points of burnout. And honestly, probably reach them sometimes. Just like in the gym, you would go to failure mentally, not in that way, not in the way you're thinking. Don't jump off that balcony there, but go to failure mentally in the terms of like, holy fuck, I don't know if I can work another hour. I don't know if I can do this, blah, blah, blah. And go to failure with your nervous system. Reach those points where you feel like you are at a dead end pretty much, like honestly, because I've been there multiple times. And those points feel terrible. They feel like shit. But guess what? The breakthrough comes right after that. Because in order to break through, you must become a higher level of yourself. And the only way to become a higher level of yourself is to reach that breaking point. Because once you break, you grow back stronger. Everything always stems back to the gym, the way the muscles grow. All right? You got to take those muscles to burn out, break down the muscle fibers. The muscle fibers grow back bigger and stronger. Same with you. Chapter 8, aligning your words with actions. The most important relationship to build in life is the relationship with yourself. This will not only fix a lot of your external relationship problems, but it will make you much more successful. If you can have a 99+% follow through score of actually doing what you say you will do with undeniable confidence and conviction inside of yourself, this will change the game for you. Success requires risk, and risk, well, that requires trust with yourself. So ask yourself the question, how much do I currently trust myself? How much do you currently trust yourself? Biggest question, right? Most people, when building trust with themselves, look at the big picture. Once you accomplish the pinnacle of the goal, you now have belief inside yourself. That's how most people think about it. Once I achieve the goal, now I will believe inside myself. This is why we need to break your goals down into daily wins, though, because in order to achieve your goal, relentless belief is required first. It's not something you achieve once you reach it. It's something that you must achieve before you reach it. Right? You must believe, you must have confidence and conviction before you achieve it. You need that along the way. You can build that relentless belief by following through with small daily wins. You should write these down every single morning as well. All right. This is something that will be taught inside of the PR method, but every morning you should rewrite your big goals and come up with a daily action plan or even just a basic daily non-negotiable list to move the needle forward. This can look like wake up at 6 a.m., deep work block every single morning for 2 hours, no phone for the first 3 hours a day, eating X, Y, and Z at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. That by simply following through with the action items you give yourself, you will build trust, right? So like I said earlier, most people think they need to achieve their goal first to believe inside themselves, to kind of build trust, to feel even like worthy of it sometimes, right? To inherit these characteristics and these feelings, right? And that's going to set you up for success because along the way, you're going to run into the ruts, you're going to run into the valleys where those characteristics, those feelings are required to keep going. So the best thing to do is to break down that big goal into small daily wins, right? And so once you attach those small daily wins, those small little actions to that big outcome, now that you start to complete those small daily actions, those small daily wins, you actually feel like you're making progress. You're actually building trust with yourself because you're like, these little things build up to that big thing, right? And you got to become that person on a daily basis, right? Success is something you achieve one day. It's enough successful days strung along a long period of time. And remember, trusting yourself is a muscle, not a characteristic. It's something you must consistently exercise to keep strong. Do not lay off the gas once you have made progress. Chapter 9, non-negotiables. My life changed when I started to follow a strict list of daily non-negotiables. Non-negotiables were heavily required for bodybuilding prep. I need to eat at the same time, train at the same time, wake up at the same time, go to sleep around the same times, and get things done by certain times to fit my steps and my cardio. To come up with that personal list of daily action or daily non-negotiables, simply write down 3 to 5 things that will for sure make you the best version of yourself and move the needle ahead towards your goals. For example, it's simple. Wake up at 6 a.m., 2-hour focused deep work block, less than 4 hours of screen time a day, morning journaling in the first 15 minutes of the day, in bed by 10 p.m., 1 gallon of water. It can be simple like that. These are small bite-sized wins that you can easily accomplish each day to build that trust muscle with yourself. All right, that is baseline, is what I like to call it, right? So below baseline is negative. You are in negative self-improvement. You have debt in self-improvement. You got things you got to work on. Baseline is like, now we can actually start improving. Baseline to me is like, you're just nailing down non-negotiables, the good things that make you a decent human being, like waking up like on time consistently, preferably early morning. If you work later in the day, well, I get that, but like have a set wake up time. That's the best way to say it. Having deep work blocks, not a whole bunch of screen time, doing morning journaling, drinking a gallon of water, eating these specific meals. Like these are just like basic self-improvement things. To me, that's baseline. And once you like lay that first layer of self-improvement, like that simple shit that just improves you, now you can actually improve your business. Now you can actually improve your social media. Now you can actually improve the world. You can't improve things outside of you if you can't improve you. You got to conquer yourself first before you can conquer external things. So that's why non-negotiables, right? Small daily wins are super important, right? You need those. If you're struggling with anything in life, it's probably your self-improvement, sadly. That's the harsh, true answer. Chapter 10, eliminate negotiation. The biggest killer of discipline is negotiating with yourself. Have a set, clear list of daily non-negotiables is good, but this chapter is about becoming great. Eliminating negotiation is simply a mindset. You must simply act before your brain can debate. Along your journey, you will probably find yourself debating with yourself. I need to post something today, but I don't know what to post. So I'm going to go to the gym and then maybe I'll figure it out or maybe I'll feel like doing it. This is negotiation. Instead, just grab your phone, open up the record tab and start talking. You think I felt like sitting down to record this video that's going to be fucking over an hour long? No. But I didn't debate. I was like, pop up Loom, fucking record it. Let's just get after it. This is the first take too. It's not like I took multiple takes, blah, blah, blah. I just fucking do it. However it comes out is how it's going to come out. You don't have to upload it first. The video you record, if it's truly that bad, if you're truly super embarrassed about it, but just like practice taking action upon thought to kill negotiation or procrastination. That's where you got to start, right? It's just like, as soon as you know you have to do something, just do it. Now, here's the best practice for eliminating negotiation that I found personally. Get up as soon as the alarm clock goes off, all right? If you want the simplest thing you can do that will cascade into the rest of your success, as soon as the alarm clock goes off, 6, 7 a.m., just get up, get after it. Right? If you start your day off on that foot, you're more likely to do the other things the same way. It's the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. No matter how tired I feel, no matter how little sleep I got, or how warm my bed feels, I prepare myself when I go to sleep by visualizing myself getting up right away when the alarm clock goes off. And the next morning, as soon as the alarm clock goes off, I get right out of bed. This sets the tone for the day. Eat the frog in the morning. Let me break this down. So when I was really trying to build these discipline characteristics, something I would do a lot is like right before I went to bed, visualize myself hitting that. That time I was waking up at 4 or 5 a.m., like super early. And that was a struggle, honestly. But I'd visualize myself, right? Alarm clock goes off. I get right out of bed. I start crushing it, blah, 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 blah. Like I would visualize that. And I would just step into that visualization as soon as I woke up. It's really beneficial. So if you struggle with waking up in the morning, It's because you just haven't shifted your identity. It's that clear, right? Get clear on the identity. What does that look like? And step into that person. And also just eat the frog in the morning. So this analogy goes is like, say I sit down at dinner with you, right? We're going to have dinner. And I hand you this frog, all right? And it's a live frog. It's all slimy. It's dirty. And I'm like, you have to eat this frog. You can either eat it right now or you can eat it after dinner, all right? You're kind of a complete dumbass if you say I'll eat it after dinner, because then, the aftertaste of maybe a nice dinner is going to be frog in your fucking mouth. You're going to put it off till later. The intelligent person is just going to eat the frog right away. They're like, let me get it over with. I have to do this either way, and then I can enjoy myself, right? Eat the frog in the morning. Conclusion. We're finally here. Discipline is freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of discipline. Freedom is the result of discipline. I see a lot of men, a lot of people this generation, they think freedom in life is the absence of discipline, right? They don't want to have to be disciplined towards certain things. They don't want to chase something purposeful. They want to find the way of making money that requires the least amount of time that gets them paid the most, because there's undisciplined people, or they just don't want to work at all. They just want to fucking rely on the fucking government and make $1,500 a month off fucking whatever. That's not freedom, right? Real freedom is the result of real discipline. Because true freedom is being free of your worries. And while a lack of discipline may feel freeing, but the worry will always be there deep down. This is why most people turn to comfort and vices to numb that worry. So discipline isn't punishment. It's the highest form of self-love, and that's how I want you to think about it. All right, a lot of people have this negative connotation. Some people love discipline, but some people kind of this negative connotation around it, where it's like, gotta be disciplined. It's like, what? It's the highest form of self-love, man. It's showing you respect yourself. You respect your life. You got one life to live. It would be very grateful and self-loving of you to be very disciplined with your life. You use it up every single day and make the best of it is the best way to put it. So leave you off with that mindset shift. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you later. Peace.